Are you looking for real, raw, and unfiltered news about what's happening in the greater Philadelphia area? Are you sick of all the vanilla takes about the local issues affecting our community right now? You're in the right place. Tune in to the Philly Face to Face podcast.
We are back on the Philly Face to Face podcast, and we have a good friend of mine, my neighbor, and a learning support teacher at Lower Merion High School, Nicki Swartley. Thanks for coming on, number one. I know there's a lot of people out there that are educators themselves now and really haven't planned on it given what's been going on. So really love your perspective here on what's been happening. So tell us a little bit about your background, like introduce yourself to the audience, and then let them know who you are and maybe why you got into teaching.
Okay. Hi, Tom. So Tom is my neighbor. And so this is a funny way for us to talk. Usually it's over the fence. But yeah, I'm a special education teacher at a suburban high school outside of Philadelphia. And I've been teaching learning support now for about 15 years. And it's a really interesting time for sure in the field of education. I feel like, everybody's been a student, but not everybody's been a teacher. So I think everybody's getting a little taste of it now. So the way I got into this field, I was actually in marketing initially and not really super thrilled with the direction my career was headed. And then I ended up meeting up with a friend who was in the field of special education, working with kids with emotional disabilities. And I hung out with him for a few days at work and just thought, wow, this is probably what I should be doing. I just connected really well to kids and really found the day just zoomed by. It was like that flow. It happened to me for the first time. And so then I had a family of my own. And while I did that, I went to school and got my degree in teaching. And so when my kids were old enough to go to school, kind of about the age your kids are now, Tom, I started working, and I worked at a technical high school, and I worked at, now currently where I am, I've been about 15 years. So here I am. Yeah. And now I work from my living room. So that's kind of weird.
Kids, we got a special guest here. Leah also had a Nicki. All right. This is what it's like working at home.
Yeah, this is a taste of
it. This is it. So, number one, teaching to me, my mom's a teacher. Probably one of the most undervalued positions in our community. And I think it's one of the hardest jobs out there and teachers should make a lot more money. So I just want to get that on the table because what you do every day is not easy. And we've seen that at home. We got all this homeschooling going on right now. Parents are having to take their kids through it. We got this guy back here. He's in first grade. He's going to say hi. All right. You're on the podcast, buddy. This is it. And then we got a kindergartner as well. And then we're all in the same school district that Nicki works in. So it's tough. It's hard teaching. I mean, I was probably not a great student myself. I know I was a little bit of a handful when I was younger. And what I love to hear is that you had a calling to it and you love what you're doing. Because if you don't love what you're doing, you probably should just get another job right away and do something else. And I love hearing that because it's really hard what you do. So given the current climate, talk about some of the adjustments you've had to make with your students, what maybe the district or your department's doing at a high end level, because this is a new normal that no one really expected.
Right. Yeah, for sure. It was like in moments where all of a sudden you're making decisions and trying to figure out how to carry out what you do, through a computer like this. Mm-hmm. And it all happened really quickly and really intensely. And also, it was sort of a crazy time just in terms of, health concerns and worrying about people, but also sort of inspiring to see how people rallied and came together and pulled together to try to make this work for kids. I mean, a lot of us got into this field because we care about kids learning and, being excited about the stuff that they're involved in. And so we want to try to keep that going as best we can, even though the situation is less than ideal. So it's been a huge shift, a huge adjustment. And I think for, something everyone can appreciate is the fact that not only are you doing your job, but you're, taking care of your own family in the midst of all this. So, I think it has built a lot of empathy for one another, and also, just helped. I think it's helped this, I guess our community understand how important schools are to kids and families. Mm-hmm. And, all the things that you have to figure out now, all the things you have to deliver that you're used to delivering face-to-face, figuring out how to do this now remotely. And it's even working within a school system, and having that exposure to all the different ways that we work with kids even my eyes are open to, thinking about, just the safety. We're the first line of defense to make sure kids are safe, and, the help that we provide kids with emotional needs and, social needs and family needs. And, even as something is significant as, food in a day, and meals, all those things have to be thought out. The healthcare, there's just so much. So it's really been sort of enlightening in terms of understanding what schools mean to kids and to their families, and how integrated that all is. So yeah, I'm glad to hear, it's always nice to hear when someone's appreciative, and it does reinforce the value of this occupation, I think.
To me, one of the hardest jobs that's out there. And one of the things our son behind me is messing with our bulletin board now. His first grade teacher, parent teacher conferences, said, "Hey, I'm going to be with your kids more than you are, because when they're with you, they're sleeping 8 hours a day." And that was like, I never even thought of it like that. And it was the first, because we have half day kindergarten. So it was the first time, and that was earlier this year. And then seeing the commitment where his teachers coming to like class parties and class events. I mean, they're really part of the family at a very basic level. Mm-hmm. And what I love that your district has done, because we send our kids there, they've really continued to evolve, meaning like now they're doing Zoom meetings with their class, like they're getting to see their friends. And there's so much more to school than just like the learning aspect, the community aspect, growing as a person, like maturing. I mean, it makes it really tough. So I love the adjustments that the district has made, and what you're doing on like a student teacher level.
Yeah.
So, knowing that there's been a lot of adjustments that have been made for the parents at home. And I think this is the biggest challenge. And it's a lot of the moms, really. Like, I'm going to be very clear. In my household, my wife, Bridget, has been doing the majority of the work. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm doing that. And we're very, very grateful for her commitment to our family. So what advice do you have for the parents? This is going to be the funniest episode ever with this going on. So what's up? Okay. So
advice to families?
So what advice do you have for the parents that are having to teach their kids, and what would you tell them on maybe a one-to-one level? Because it's been tough on some people. This has been hard.
Yeah, it's super hard. I think, first of all, Bridget's a rock star. I'll say that. I know that firsthand, seeing all that she's doing in a day as I work out, from my window. But yeah, I think in terms of advice, just really taking it one day at a time, and knowing that this too shall pass. I mean, that's an expression my mother used to say to me growing up, and I think that's true. I mean, it's really bad stuff what's happening, and it's, certainly a challenge for everyone, but it's not going to be forever. So just taking it one day at a time is probably the best piece of advice. It's not going to be a typical school day. It's not going to be a normal situation. It's, it's an atypical experience, but, that's life. In life, you often veer off the path for a time. So this is just an example of that, and sort of letting kids know that, this is what we're doing for the moment, but it's not going to be forever. And just, taking it one day at a time. And, one thing I discuss with my families is, adhering to a schedule as best you can. Seems to give people a lot of comfort, because we're so schedule oriented. Anyway, I think that's helpful for kids too. Just like, we're not walking out of the door and climbing on a school bus and heading to school, but we can structure the day, so that it's sort of an official day where we get up, we sort of have our morning routines, and then we have time where we're learning, and then we have breaks, and then there's an end to it. I think, in our modern culture, a lot of times even people that work from home are like 24/7. But I think with kids, you really need to have a start time, break times, and a cutoff time. And then the rest of their day as it was before this all happened. So, that's probably my biggest thing is, biggest piece of advice is just take it one day at a time and try to create some structure and some regularity to this sort of irregular experience.
Yeah, I mean, the schedule thing, I've seen that work on some of our team members have kids at home, and they're doing the same thing, where I look at like our agents, and they have, okay, I got to teach my son here, and I got to teach my son there. And in between, I'm going to be doing work stuff, and we're going to have lunch, and like actually putting it in their calendar has been really, really helpful for them. So I love that piece of advice, because otherwise, I mean, it's kind of a free for all, and there's no direction. And then kids also need a break.
And the kids need, I think the kids need that pattern to rely on, because it's already so chaotic. I mean, everything, from what I'm hearing, even from friends and their kids, is their kids are like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Like, they want to know, the next thing that's coming their way. So I think the more you can sort of set it up like a schedule, it'll give them that comfort of, okay, this is the drill for today. And it's going to look a lot like that tomorrow. And at least they can sort of rely on that foundation. It's funny, like some of my high school students who are struggling learners, as soon as this happened, they were sleeping till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, that's about the worst thing that you could do for yourself in terms of educating yourself. So like one of the first conversations I was having with my students is, creating a schedule like this. You're still doing school. It's just different, but you're still learning and you're still committing yourself and you're trying and you're, learning. So one of the first things I said was, wake up and do your morning routine. You might not get on a school bus, but you're going to, get a shower, get breakfast in you, have a start time, and then go, and then have an end time too. But it's for all ages. I just think every kid needs to have a routine in place.
Well, yeah, the same thing for adults, right? I mean, and same thing for people that work. Like, I mean, we say that all the time with especially if you're like doing your own thing. Like now we're all working from home, so I think that's advice for even if you're not teaching kids, like everyone should be having a schedule right now just to try to get things done. So I love that piece of advice. That's great. So what are some of the resources that you're directing parents towards or kids towards that are out there? I know our kids have been using like a Seesaw app with their kindergarten teacher where they upload like videos of what they're doing. They've been doing Zoom calls, which I wish I would have bought Zoom stock before this all happened. I mean, it's been crazy. We were talking about this before the interview. So what are some of the resources you're recommending people use that might be out there that can help with this process?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. One of the first tools that I went to was Zoom, because I'm so used to face-to-face interaction with my students. I really value that and that was one of the things I missed immediately. So, I know you were saying your kids, got online and were at least able to see each other's faces and the teacher's face. And I just think that for me, that brings me a lot of comfort to be able to see my students. In fact, I'll get on a Zoom call with them one-on-one and they won't have their camera on. And I'm like, turn your camera on. Like we need to see each other. So, that's the first step. And then I think, like, most schools have some kind of online warehouse for all the information that the teachers are wanting to communicate to students. And I think the more teachers can use that platform, whatever it is, in our district, it's Blackboard. And your son is entertaining you, I can tell.
Yeah, well, you guys are like friends. So, I mean, I think he's excited just to hear you. So this is life in April of 2020 here. So this is it.
Yeah. So, just using whatever platform your school district can offer for keeping all that information in one spot. And then of course, email is great. And in terms of, one of my favorite things in the world is Google Drive, because there's so many great tools that kids should be using. And even, students I encourage to use before this all happened, that, you can do speech to text or read aloud or, listen to text aloud. These are all these tools available through Google that can make, comprehension better, focus better, like use the tools that are available. I think kids tend not to because it's an extra step, but in this scenario, it can be really helpful. So Google's great. Zoom is great. I would say for the students that I work with, I use like an online whiteboard for brainstorming and organizing ideas. There's a lot of things out there. I don't know how secure they are, but we have one through our Blackboard system that we use with our students. Things like Khan Academy. I think a lot of teachers are starting to think about, some of those. They use them anyway, but even more so that kids have access to instruction and practice and things like that. But those are the biggies, I'd say. Quizlet is kids all know this. The kids know these different apps. Quizlet's
I'm writing these down so I can take notes here. So.
Yeah. Trying to think what else. Oh, I think for older kids, if they have reading, there's this resource called Schmoop, SCHMOOP.com. And it's a great online resource for comprehension of some more challenging reading. That's one of my favorites that I use with students. Google has a lot of add-ons, which,
Hmm.
there's one called Co-Writer. There's another one called Snap and Read. These are all tools for reading comprehension and written expression that can be helpful. I just learned about one. Oh, there's something called Newsela, Newsela, and that has online reading resources. It's a paid subscription, but there's some free parts to it that are pretty cool. But you can have different leveled readings if there's any kind of research. And of course, the libraries for most schools have pretty amazing online, and they're generally underutilized. So hopefully, people will take advantage of it now. But yeah, those are the biggies that I can think of off the top of my head.
Well, you said something right at the beginning. Get on camera on Zoom. I love that because there's too many people that just dial in. You might as well call them on the phone. So, and the whole point of this is to get face to face. So I love that piece of advice. Google like basically put Microsoft Office out of business with all the free apps that they have. I mean, no one buys that anymore. So I love the Google recommendation. We use that a lot. Blackboard has been really helpful, especially for our first grade son, because the learning there is a little different than kindergarten.
Right.
That's been a great one we've used. So, I mean, this is all good stuff here. So if anyone has a question on this, just feel free to like send me a message. And then I wrote them all down. I got all the weird spellings because all these apps kind of have like funny names. But this is great stuff, Nicki. This is awesome. So what do you think this means for educating moving forward? I mean, I think you've had to pivot. Everyone's had to pivot. Parents, students, the teachers. So what does this all mean for teaching moving forward?
I think this means Leo is going to be in your attic office for the rest of your life.
Yes. Move him. We'll put a bed in here for him.
Well, I just think it highlights what we've always known in education, which is, we're always zigging and zagging and trying to find ways for kids to learn. I don't think this is that different than sort of what historically has happened in this field. Like a lot of fields, right? You're always trying to improve
for sure,
and find ways to reach learners. And, I think this just sort of speaks to what I've experienced, which is, being creative and constantly trying to find different tools and methods and ways for kids to learn. So that's one thing I think will come out of this. The second is, I think, as you were asking the question, I was thinking about just sort of maybe a growing appreciation for, what schools offer people in terms of community and support. And, it's just so much more than learning. And I'm thinking probably people are starting to recognize that more now, which is good. I think, it's important for people to understand the value of what a school can bring to, a family or a student.
I totally agree. I mean, this, I went to Catholic school and there was like 14 kids in my class. So this is the complete opposite of what we've seen now, which is one of the reasons why we moved here. We live here. We ended up being neighbors was because of the school system. And the thing I've been most impressed with, I don't really know what to expect because everyone gives you like advice as a parent and you really don't know until you get into it. It's been the community aspect for sure here. And that's something that I think the kids miss the most out of what's been going on right now. Yeah. So I also love what you said when you've been pivoting and just working on getting better, because that's probably the key to success in any career is you don't know what's going to come at you, and you just have to kind of your reaction and the way you adjust to it. That's really what makes the difference. So I love that piece of advice as well. So I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway because I think this is pretty helpful. So what are you guys doing day to day? You've got a son and a daughter at home, or your son's at school. He's at college right now.
Yeah.
So what are you guys doing to kind of like stay sane? Because I think this is a big problem for a lot of people, independent of having to teach your kids, just like the day to day. It's like Groundhog Day every day. So,
I think part of it is the schedule, just sort of having a plan for the day and then feeling like you have things to do and getting them done. Work has taken up a lot of time and sort of given me focus. But also, as you well know, Matt and I head out to the gym pretty early every day. And so
I can hear you leave. I'm usually up then. So I do know what's going on.
Yeah,
so.
You, Matt and I and like one other person on our street.
That's it. Yeah.
We're awake at that horrible hour. So we've had to wait for the sun to come up, but maintaining our workout has been super important. My gosh, it's like, you have to get outside, you have to get fresh air, you have to get in the sunshine. And just maintain the parts of your life that you can maintain.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much, but working out and, meal times. And I did figure out how to get some wine shipped from out of state, to this wonderful state.
Gotta share that secret with us. We're still working on a shipment right now, actually.
Oh, okay, well, we'll talk after this.
Yeah. Don't overload the company.
Like, actually, I was thinking about today, like still having dates, date night or whatever. It might be in your living room, but keeping up with some of the things that are important to you as best you can in the home. Like Saturday morning is a big time for us to go work out, and then we meet up with friends for coffee and get pastries at Elise in town. And so we did the pickup, and we had that in our house in the morning this morning. So, try to maintain a little bit of the fun stuff that you can, while sequestered. A little bit.
I was so impressed when I saw you guys building the jump block in the backyard. Like that to me was so cool, because that's commitment. That's like, hey, we're going to work out. We're going to use this thing. I heard the AC/DC you had on this morning. That got me in the mood to work out, which if anyone knows me, I'm a daily workout kind of guy as well, at least over the past few years, and really made that commitment. So I love what you're doing to just keep going, because I think, it's not easy being a teacher in general. And I'm sure it's probably more stressful than it has been before, just like any other job, because we're limited in what we can do. And that sort of stuff, like, this is what people need to hear to get through this. I don't think there's anything crazy that we talked about here. It's all back to basics. And that's, it's your health, your relationships, and your job. And what can you do to make that enjoyable in this kind of environment?
Right. For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think, also, I think in terms of like the educational side of it, I've heard from some people that they're like, well, this, my kid's missing out on this and my kid's missing out on that. And yeah, that's true. But also there are things that we're gaining from this experience. I'm sure Leo is learning things now that he never had to do before, So while I think that's, part of just trying to realize that, yeah, this is sort of life, and you just kind of go with the flow, and you learn and you grow as you go along. And, our kids aren't doing what they're used to doing, and it's, maybe some would consider not ideal, but they're going to grow from this experience. They're going to learn things that they wouldn't otherwise have an opportunity to learn. So, you got to kind of always try to look through the glass half full kind of perspective too.
Love it. And there is an opportunity to learn some like life skills from this probably a lot early. I mean, for a first grade kid, they're not getting exposed to anything like this, where you have to make a huge adjustment in your life for a kindergartner. So
yeah, like your kids know now what the mailbox is, right? Like they know where to go drop off a letter.
Yeah, we had to explain it to him, because he's been writing back and forth, Leo, to his friend, and
old school pen pal
mailbox, and he goes, "What do we do now?" When we got there, so and it's like one street away. It's over on Linwood. So it was really funny to have that experience. But that's the world we live in now.
Yep. Now he knows.
So anything else you want to share with anyone watching here? I mean, this was a lot of content here, jam-packed with great information. I'm really excited to share this with our past clients, the people we know, everyone in our social networks. Anything you want to kind of let people know as we kind of wrap this up here, Nicki? This has been great.
I don't know. I feel like we did a darn good job, Tom. I think we covered it.
All right. Well, You said it all. This was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Even though I see you all the time, I really appreciate you doing this. And I know this is going to help a lot of people, and we really appreciate you taking the time to share all this stuff, Nicki.
I look forward to the porch party when the sun comes out, and we can at least,
It's supposed to be warm tomorrow, so maybe we can do. I'll set up some chairs in our driveway. We'll wave at each other.
All right, look forward to it.
Take care, Nicki. Thanks.